Hi, so today we're going to be talking about staying on track. What is the track? Who invents the track? How do you know if you're on track or off track? And what does it mean if you're on track or off track? So I'm just going to get Matt to join me so that we can have a chat about what this means to us, what this means to you, and see what we can come up with as a plan for how to manage the track that you should or shouldn't be on.
Hey, Christine.
Hey, okay, so Matt, tell me what you think about this idea of there being a track that people are on or off or falling off or not staying on. What is it that we want people to know about the track of life?
I think it's really interesting because we all, I'm sure, most of us at least, have had um, that thought. Oh, I'm just kind of, I'm way off track. There's somewhere I ought to be, and it really isn't here. And generally, that isn't a good experience. That is a good feeling. That's us kind of telling ourselves that could do better, or or something far less kind than that. And I guess what Christian and I were exploring is kind of, where does this idea come from that there's somewhere we're meant to be, and also that I think oftentimes that um, the sense that being on track or further down the track is gonna give us a better experience of life. Like, things will be better when I'm on that track, when I reach that next rung in whatever ladder I'm climbing. So yeah, I think there's something interesting to understand. Like, we all of us, I think, innocently subscribe to the idea there is some sort of track.
Yeah, I
It,
think, I've had children, you've got children. I think we see the track as predetermined, right? Because there's a sort of system that we all accept and fall into, especially as I was saying to you, from 15 onwards, that sort of GCSEs, A levels, university, get a good job. If you don't do well, you're not going to get a good job. You're not going to succeed if you don't go to the right university. If you don't get a 2-1, you won't be successful. It's constant pressure to be on a track that has been invented. I can say no more than it's been invented. It was invented by people for their own ends. To get people to work in jobs in offices, to get a throughput of people so that you can hire them to work in your businesses. To work in whatever we wanted them to work in, and we've all the myth of it is very seductive because the whole of society is built around a track that we all agree on. Okay. And even your parents, that are hoping and wishing, even if they don't say it out loud, that you will be successful by having a house, a mortgage, a family, you know and that's the idea of what the track of life is that we've all bought into. And I think the one thing that we have found is that there's a lot of struggle in trying to maintain a version of yourself on the track. Would you agree?
yeah, yeah, definitely. And I said, I guess one of the things that struck me was that I didn't follow the track after I left kind of academic life. And even though actually I followed a path that was probably, sort of, I know, right for me might be overstating it, but it certainly wasn't a bad track to be on. I had this nagging sense that there was a better one. There was the track that was, working for a big brand, a high status company. That sort of, that was something that was missing, and that there was a deficit there. And it was kind of only when I finally, sort of a bit later in my career, had the experience of working in these big brands, that, whilst it may not universally be the case, I kind of saw that there was nothing amazing about that. That a lot of the promise of that brand as an employer brand was definitely not, lived up to in my real experiences of it. And it was partly seeing it for what it was, you know, peeking behind the curtain, that Wizard of Oz type thing, to see that actually, you know, there's nothing so amazing here. Like, there's some trappings that are kind of nice. It's nice that my parents, for the first time, you know, I work for a company that they've heard of, that they can tell their friends and vaguely think they know what it does. But that soon weared off, and I guess what I was left to was just a truer sense of, oh, okay, this isn't really for me. I was kind of right all along. I just didn't trust myself. It isn't really for me, and I wasn't really for it. And so there was just no point in plugging away trying to climb, you know, up that ladder, because it was just obvious that it wasn't the right thing. And I think that freed me up to then go and explore, okay, well, if I've got the place I thought I needed to get to and it wasn't all that, where do I go from here? And that's, in a way, where the fun started. Like, there was less seriousness, there was less of a sense like there's somewhere to get to, and that freed me up just to follow my, you know, follow my nose, follow my instincts, and have conversations with people to see what really, you know, what really appealed to me, where the interest was.
Mm. And I had the opposite experience, because I never even got started on the path, the right path, you know, because I got thrown out of school. They wouldn't let me stay on to do A levels, so I couldn't go to university. I couldn't do all of those things because I was already off track and on a different path, and because I felt that was unjust, even though I hadn't done the work. I spent a lot of the rest of another 20 years constantly searching for courses and bits of paper that gave me what I thought was the validity that I didn't have from not having what everybody else seemed to have, which was, you know, that piece of paper, those A levels, that degree, whatever. And it took me a long time to stop berating myself for not having taken the right path. And so I searched a lot for other stuff to make up for what I thought was my lack, because I hadn't done what I should have done, or I hadn't done what was expected to be done, or I hadn't done what other people had done. And it all boiled down in a way to it being my lack of something lacking in me, or something lacking in, you know, because it's a shorthand, isn't it? The track is like, you know, oh, you've got a degree. Like, after a while, no one even cares what your degree is in. No one even asks you. They ask you where you went. It's like a sort of club of, oh, well, that means you must be that level. You know, stupid jobs now are asking for a degree level education to, you know, pour coffee. And, you know, it's like a way of describing people, because they say, well, if you've done that, you must be this, you know. And so I struggled with that for a long time, and took me a long time to realize that the track was indeed just made up, and most of it was made up in my head, and that a million other people weren't on track either, and weren't suffering as much as I was from a perceived idea that I'd be happy when I got the right bit of paper, the right degree, to the point that in my 50s I decided to go and do a degree, and then got there on the day I finally got offered a place, and realized it wasn't what I wanted at all. I had made up the thought that if I got there, that would make me happy, and when I got there, I realized it wasn't gonna. I was already happy, and I didn't need it at all, and I didn't go. But it took me all that time, and it took me having an offer for me to settle down and go, oh, okay, I didn't need it. I just wanted to know I could, in a way. And it always, in my mind, it always boiled down to something about me, that there was something wrong with me, that I hadn't done all the things I should have done.
It's so interesting that, yeah, like we both had quite equivalent experiences, both in that sense of there being something missing, and then when we got to that place, like seeing through that illusion and seeing it for what it was, that it was, you know, an idea that we had, quite a, you know, a compelling idea that turned out to be, you know, not bear little relation to the reality. So I think that's interesting, and I guess what it points to, and it may be innocent in education. I don't know if it, as you say, like it's for insidious motives, but it's this deficit model, isn't it? There's always somewhere else to get to, where you know, where things are going to be okay. Like, I just got to get over these exams. I just got to get over the next set of exams. When I get my degree, when I get a job, it'll be okay. When I get to partner, it'll be okay. If you're in that kind of world, when I get, you know, X, you know, sort of hundreds of thousands of viewers, when I, you know, when I get my first round of funding, it's all predicated on, I guess, what we found and what we're suggesting is this false premise that somewhere else other than here is the source of where, you know, good feeling lives. Like, if I get to that point, then, you know, life's sorted. And we know, you know, we've reached 1 million of these milestones, and sometimes, yes, there can be a really good feeling, but, you know, it's moment to moment, because all feelings are moment to moment. And so, you know, no single point in time can, you know, guarantee us a lifetime of good or kind of bad feelings.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah,
I think both of us will agree that we have spent way too many years outsourcing our well-being to when I get there, I'll be happy. When I get there, I'll be successful. When I get there, I'll be okay. I'll be enough. You know, it'll be enough when I get there, and not realizing, as we do now, that we were always okay. We always had our well-being, and it wasn't out there. And when we got there, we were still okay. We were as okay as we were before we got there, and everything, you know, it was another milestone reached, but it didn't make any difference to our internal well-being.
yeah, that's a great point. So if you had one sort of thought or word of advice to kind of to leave this conversation, what would be your takeaway for your younger self?
I think I would be more cynical, you know, question more the other people's idea of what success is. You know, I meet so many parents who hand their young adult to me and say they're unhappy, please fix them. And I look at the parents and I say, well, how's your life going? You know, are you happy, you know, running around rushing around through your life, never seeing anybody or having any fun because you're too busy paying the mortgage, paying the car payments, keeping up appearances? You know, are you happy in what you're doing? And they say, no way. And I say, well, then why are you trying to encourage your children to have the same shit life you're having? You know, but we do indeed encourage our children to have the same measures of success as we were built on, and think that even though we're not doing well, maybe they'll do better at it. I don't know what we think, but we know we're miserable, we know we're not happy, but we still encourage them to follow exactly the same path that was laid out for us, that has made us so unhappy. And I would really encourage my younger self to be way more cynical, that the moment I felt I was going off track, if I'd have gone, what track, who invented the track, whose path is this? Is this my version of success, or is this theirs? Is this, you know, does society want the success for me because it suits them or because it suits me? And I think I would have wanted to be much more cynical. So what about you?
I think like almost the other side of that coin, which is just trust yourself. Like, sort of just trust that you either already know or you will know what makes sense for you. And as you say, like, be willing to, you know, question, challenge yourself and others if that doesn't align with what other people seem to think would be good for you. And the younger you can build that muscle of, you know, listening what that common sense voice is telling you on the inside, rather than that, you know, whatever it is from outside of you, then you're gonna you know, you're gonna do better. So yeah, that would be mine.
Yeah, and I think that's a good lead into tomorrow, where I think we should talk about how to make bold decisions that go against friends, families' perceived opinion of what is a good life, what's the right path, what you should be doing, and how to be bolder in making those decisions independently for yourself.
I'll be there.
Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Thank
Bye.
you.